Yo, what is up? It is your friend, your homie, Damian Howard here with another Village Talk segment. And as I've been really doing lately, focusing on my hometown, focusing on Chicago, there are a lot of amazing people that I don't even know about, right? That are just doing great work for the benefit of young people. And usually, when I have these segments and I'm talking to somebody from home, these are people that I already have friendship with. These are people that I already have relationship with. But Darryca is somebody that I haven't known before this segment, but it's somebody that I've heard her name in several spaces. So it is about to go down because the beauty and brilliance of these Village Talk spaces, if for nothing else, it affords me an opportunity to get to learn of people in the city of Chicago doing great work and service to young people. So with that, Darryca, I don't want to take any shine, any thunder, any brilliance away from how you're going to jump in there with your introduction and just let us know who you are, what's important to you in this season, anything you want to share on the front end.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, Damien. So I am Darryca. I am a woman of God. I am a little black girl from Chicago. I am a focus fairy, educator, author, all of those things. And I think what drives me, what fuels me is to be able to create safe and joyous spaces for black and brown women and girls in Chicago. And that is what lights me up, brings me joy, and the work that I will continuously do.
Yeah, so that's dope. That's dope. So you said you come from the city of Chicago, huh?
Yes,
Yeah.
Southside, low end.
South side, low end. It's interesting, right? Because when I asked you where your office is, in some ways, right, that's still considered the low end space, right? So you,
Bronzeville.
yeah, so you still kind of stand true to even your upbringing in that space. Talk to us a little bit about like, yeah, take us back. Like, how was growing up in the city of Chicago, going through that season of all of the Bulls championships and even some of the gentrification that you've experienced. How has it been? Like you say, a young lady who's grown up in it from the city.
Yep. So it's been quite interesting. So I grew up, I actually was born in on 53rd and Racine and went to Sherman Park as a kid and then moved to Fuller Park the year the Bulls won the championship. So it was a crazy time. It was the excitement. It was all of the things, right? And so I went to Alexander Graham, and the things that I remember about Graham is the racism that I experienced from living in Fuller Park, crossing over to go to Canaryville. Right, our neighborhoods were divided, separated by a viaduct, and as a child, when bus service got cut, me and all of my siblings, nieces, nephews, cousins all had to walk to school. And it was so terrifying because it was an individual who lived in his house on the corner. And every time we walked through, he would chase us with a gun. Mind you, we are kids. We are in second, third, fourth, fifth grade. And we already got to deal with so much going into school. But just imagine having to go to school with fear and terror. And that is what I think about when I think about like going from Fuller Park into Canaryville is the racism that existed, right? Is how they didn't see us as a part of the society, a part of the world, a part of the community. And it was very frightful for us as kids. But what also gave me hope in that same space was Young Life. So I'm a proud member of Young Life. Me and all of my siblings and a lot of people that grew up in the Fuller Park community all attended Young Life, right? And so Young Life was a safe space for me to go to where I can experience the Word of God, where I can have joy of being a kid. Um, we used to get like these Young Life bucks that we can use to go on different adventures all across the 50 states. And
Yeah,
so
I
it
think
really,
I think
you was
I
a,
think they
you was a
still I
part of
think they still giving them
I think
bucks
they
out
do.
even to
And
this
so,
day. Wow.
yeah. And so I used to enjoy those moments because it really taught me one, I needed to budget because I wanted to go on all the trips, okay, all the experiences. But the most important thing that I would say is it created this village of people who I felt really was pouring into like the next generation of youth. And so that was like joy and excitement. And then of course the Fuller Park District, right? We had park voyages, after school matters. The park was like our safe haven with just different programming activities that we could be a part of in the community.
Yeah, no, that's a lot to unpack there. And I just really appreciate you for being vulnerable and showing up into this space with your new friend already with the willingness to just kind of share and bring us into the realities of your upbringing. So let's make a correlation, right? You talk about how it was a struggle for you to not only have to deal with some of the dynamics of your school when you got in the school, but even before I got there, I had to deal with trauma. I had to deal with issues that as a young kid, I shouldn't have these things weighing me down, right? I should be able
Mhm.
to go there well fed, well rested, in the right mindset to do what I need to do academically. But you had this traumatic experience of this house on the corner, right? And even if you're not chased to school, it's something about that house that represents fear. It's something about that house that represents the fact that I can't just go to school and right get there safely as I should be able to, like you said, second, third, fourth, fifth grade young person. So now let's go to your mentoring work with Focus Fairies and let's think about the girls that you serve now. What would you say are some of those communal and or environmental factors that they tell you about in session that's kind of causing them to not be able to go to school with that clean slate and with that really rested and peaceful mind that they need to do what they need to do in the high school, or excuse me, in the school arena?
Yeah. I think for our middle school and our middle school age girls, I think the biggest challenge that like I hear from them is this thing around parentification, right? And a lot of the girls having to be caregivers of like their younger siblings. So like my sixth, seventh, and eighth graders who, are are feeling like they cannot be a kid because they have the stress of making sure their younger brothers or their younger sisters are, getting ready for school, helping them with homework, like all of the things that they have to take on as a quote unquote adult when they're still young. So a lot of kids are coming to school and they're tired, they're restless, they are unmotivated, they feel as though they don't have a voice, like they feel as though that they have to always be responsible. And I'm like, I understand that because I had to like help raise my nieces and nephews. So I instantly understand like the things that they're dealing with and that they're going through. And it's like, how do we in the way that we can allow a girl to be a girl, right? To have joy, to have rest, to have play without this burden of responsibility. So I think that's one thing that our youth, specifically in our elementary sites, deal with. I think the other thing is the vicarious trauma, right? Where they're in communities that are marginalized or vulnerable, right? And although some of them may not firsthand witness violence, they see it around them, whether it's a parent, a cousin, a friend, a classmate getting killed, getting shot, all of the things, right? And they carry that with them. And vicarious trauma is real and it's heavy. I lost my best friend to gun violence. I lost my cousin to gun violence. I lost my brother to gun violence. And the list goes on and on and on, right? And I understand the ripple effect that that has on me as a 36-year-old adult. I can only imagine what it's doing for our girls that's between that age of 7 and 21. And so I think at Focus Fairies, like we don't take that lightly. Like we really try to ensure that they have the support that they need in a way that they need it, whether it's through mental health support, play-based support, just somebody to talk and listen. And then I think the last thing that I don't know if it's as major as the other two, but it's their voice, right? Oftentimes I hear my girls say like, I tried to tell my mom that she hurt my feelings and I instantly got blocked down. And she's like, girl, you know, you don't got no feelings or what I say goes and all of the things, right? But what we don't understand is what we're doing now to that child, where they feel like they are voiceless, where they feel as though they can't be open enough to share the different type of emotions and feelings that they're going through in this safe space because when they do, they get treated as if they don't matter or their feelings is not valid, right? So again, those are just the things that I've been seeing and noticing with the demographic of girls that we serve.
With the vicarious trauma and specifically this dynamic of people and individual who have multiple folks that they know who have been victims of gun violence. Could you share with our listening audience what happens to a person? Like, what is that experience like? Is it potentially increased fear that I might lose my own life? I know I don't hear it as much, but at one point there was a dynamic of folks talking about, man, a lot of kids, when you try to ask them about their future, their whole thing is, I just want to make it into the age of 18, right? Because I've seen so much death and so many people plagued by gun violence that I just really don't have hope for the future. So, to the extent that even it's impacted you personally, based on what you share with us, what happens to a person in the psychological space, the relational space, when you just have so much of that impact of gun violence happening in one's life?
Yeah, so I think just from like my experience, is that you almost get desensitized to the fact that it's happening where you feel like this is a part of your life, right? And this is a part of the normal, your normalcy. And so
Mm,
if it happens, it's like, oh, okay. When like, no, that's not okay. Like that's not how we should be thinking about it. I think it also creates fear, like you said, in the youth of like, you know, I just want to be here for my 18th birthday. I just want to be here for my 12th birthday.
mm,
Um, like I don't feel like I can go to the park and just be a kid and just play and not, worry when like something is going to happen. And I could give a great example of like the PTSD that this can create and cause for youth and adults. I live in the south suburbs now, and I was at an event in the south suburbs, and I took my goddaughter and my stepson. And so they were playing, all of the things was happening, and all of a sudden kids start running, like just running out the blue. Instantly, I'm grabbing them, trying to jump down to the floor, like, what is happening? And so
mm,
one of the people out there was like, "It's okay, like they're just playing." I say, "Well, I'm triggered now because when people are running in the hood
mm,
and you see all that happening, it means that it's something serious going on, right?
mm,
That ain't normal. That's not
mm.
normal. You should be able to see kids running and having joy and playing and be like, oh, they just being a kid, but that ain't my experience, right?
Wow.
And so I think like a lot of our youth and specifically a lot of our girls are carrying that, are dealing with that, in ways in which I don't think it gets the attention that it needs and the support that it needs because they experience this in ways in which that they are carrying it and now it's creating suicide ideation for the girls, right? It's creating this disconnect where they like, I don't even care what happens today or tomorrow, right? Is they're losing this sense of joy. And I'm gonna always go back to joy and playfulness because I feel like it is missing,
Mm.
not in just youth, but in adults today as well, because of all the noise that's happening with the world.
Yeah, yeah. Wow. No, I thank you once more. Just how you're opening up, being an open book for us to have this discourse and this conversation today. It's amazing. Darryca, I'm gonna tell you something I've been experiencing lately, and I just wonder if you have a say on this. When I'm watching social media and I see any type of fighting, it's so terrible. It's bad. It's bad, right? So I just want to put that out there. But I saw one video I'll call out specifically, whereas these boys were about to fight. And one of the guys, took his gun from out from the holster or wherever he had it. He gave it to this guy, was like, you hold on to this. You know what I mean? Because it doesn't have to escalate to that point. We're gonna box it out. And then I'm just seeing other videos and even more and more of people fighting. I know when I was coming up, Darryca, that's what it was. It's like
Yeah,
we're gonna box, we're gonna meet,
right.
in the playground, such and such. So I wonder, and I could be so much over exaggerating here in my mind's eye, but are we potentially getting to a place where even the younger generation are starting to value life to an extent whereas I would do something, and even if I have my gun on me, let me let somebody else hold this and let's box it out. and just kind of your work with young people. Have you sensed that or experienced that in any way that people are just getting tired of the senseless violence and the killings happening way too young and way too early for people, and we're just going back to this traditional sense of we're gonna put our hands up and we're gonna box it out? Or am I over exaggerating based on a couple of videos that
Right.
I saw on social media?
Yeah, so I don't want to speak to like the social media videos because I'm not currently on social media.
Gotcha.
I'm just like, on LinkedIn. But what I would say is I do think that we are making slow and steady progress, right?
Mm,
Nothing is perfect, nothing will ever be perfect. But I think as a community, a lot of the like community violence intervention organizations, a lot of the mentoring organizations, a lot of the girl serving, a lot of the arts, all of the organizations and community, I feel like we are all trying
yeah.
our best to do what we can for the youth, right? With the
And
limited
basically what that
resources.
means, like we're doing a life on life work, right? We in the ear.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so
Mhm.
a trend that had moved me was when the quarter C's
Okay.
when that came out, and so
Yeah.
everybody was like, "No, we not YNs no more. We young men." And they was
Ah,
wearing the sweatshirts, and then Nike had put out a whole campaign around the
wow.
quarter zips, and they was coming from wearing the mask and the hoodies, and I was like, okay, like that's a trend that was a positive trend because it was really a lot of like the black and browns and like young men saying like we don't want to be called YNs, we want to be called young men, and they was changing their appearance and they was wearing suits and slacks and all of the things. So,
Yeah.
I'm always hopeful, right? That we can turn the needle
Mm.
on this violence that's happening throughout Chicago communities.
Yeah. And I think, we're on to something with what we're talking about right now, right? Because I think the deepest and most sustainable change is going to come when the young people decide to change and bring about these movements themselves. I think, so often, and you talked about amplifying youth voice earlier, we as adults and more seasoned individuals want to kind of come in with our perspectives. Hey, if you want to stop the trends downtown, this is what you should be doing. Whatever, we want to kind of pontificate on, right? But it's just like, yo, like let them tell us. Let
Hmm.
them are because in many instances they don't want to like and then any that I can remember me talking when they don't want to die. They want their
Exactly.
lives, to be about something. They already are formulating a sense of purpose,
Hmm.
right? And even though oftentimes for whatever reason those narratives don't get shared and those aren't the ones that get the highlight, like the young people that you work with in Focus Fairies that I've mentored over the years, it's just like we know that there's like an intrinsic desire for me to make a value out of my life, for me to be
Exactly.
somebody, right? So
Yep.
yeah, I just wanted to talk about that. I see them putting the guns down for a quick second, putting the
Mhm.
fist up, and so many people point their finger at that, like why they? And me, I'm like, yeah, let them fight more. You understand? Because we it doesn't have to end because of a disagreement.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. So no. So introduce us into the space of Focus Fairies. Like I know I asked you on the front end of the conversation, what's a bit of you all secret sauce? And one of the things that actually you share with me was a lot of the young people that you all service, be it niece, be it sister, daughter of someone who was impacted by the legal system or somebody who's been incarcerated or something like that. Like, so it seems like there's been an emphasis on, like, okay, you might have an older mom, sister, aunt who has been impacted by incarceration or something along those lines, and we don't want you to follow that type of trajectory. We want you to be able to thrive and to be able
Hmm.
to have a fresh start, your own start that's not predicated upon whoever came before you. Talk to us a little bit about like your programming and what you all are all about.
Yep. So we work with a really specific curriculum that we co-designed with our girls and really centered it kind of around their needs and like what they feel as though they want to improve about themselves. And so our motto is we have whimsical wandering wishes that is a play-based like SEL program that's geared to our younger girls and really teaches them about self-esteem, empathy, leadership, confidence, and joy and safety, right? And we facilitate our curriculum similar to like how a teacher does a lesson plan. So we always open, we have a objective, we have the curriculum, we have a closeout, we have like a moment. And that is facilitated from our facilitators that go inside of our school site. And then we have the B Girl, which stands for Becoming Emotionally Empowered. And it's the same framework, just on a level for girls now in that 13 to 16 age range, right? So going a little bit deeper, really talking to them about conflict resolution, like dealing with their emotions, like, how to set healthy boundaries, what is healthy relationships. And then the final program that we actually implemented, well, we kind of rebranded it from last year because our older girls was telling us that they wanted like therapy and they wanted mental health services. So we created the Be Girl Fly, which is our leadership and career workforce development program, which has a lot of our girls who started with us at age 12 who are now seniors in high school or in college. And this program is really geared to help them be leaders in their own right, whether it's entrepreneurship, apprenticeship, they are going to college, etc. Right. And then we also bring speakers in like women throughout Chicago or beyond to kind of pour into them, talk to them, and just give them a sense of hope and knowing like you can be whatever you desire to be, right? And you can see it and you can feel it firsthand. And so those are kind of like the three core programs that we have. We also have a mental health specialist that's a part of our team who does the individual therapy, group therapy, and family therapy for our organization as well. And then we have a parent navigator who kind of does that parent support and caregiver support for the girls in our program and beyond. And then last year we launched our WOW bus, which is the Wings on Wheels. So it's our mobile mentoring bus that we utilize in community to activate programming. And so typically around the summertime, that's what we take around and do pop up activations.
I should have asked you what aren't y'all doing? It's just like yeah, y'all got a fascinating model there that I know is making massive impact. Why the name Focus Fairies? I know that you were one of the co-founders and you're also serving as the executive director. What does that name mean to you?
Yep. So when we first started, 2017, we were just going back and forth around like at what age range should we start. So originally we started at 7 to 14. We expanded to 21 after the pandemic. And so at first, I think we were trying to call ourselves women of wisdom. And I'm like, okay, at 7, do you got wisdom? Maybe. I don't know. But like, what is a name that is catchy, that is magical, that is innocent, that if you think about a girl and all of the evolutions that she has in her lifespan, what is something that can relate to that girl? And so it was like focus fairies, right? A fairy is whimsical, a fairy is magical, it's creative. And it's just a fun, cute, pretty brand that gravitates to a girl, right? And so that's kind of how the name came about. Even we were very intentional about the logo. So the Focus Fairy logo is of me and of my co-founder, and even our mascot that we had got created, Bridget B, which is a part of when we do our program. She's a part of the story, and she's also a fairy of the work too. And so that's kind of like why we chose that name and why, I feel like the name really resonates with a lot of girls in Chicago.
So, with this segment, what I always do is take a moment to put us into an imaginative space. So, you and I are entering into that space of imagination, curiosity, and possibility. So, I'm giving you a magic wand, and I want to ask you a very specific question. Typically, I keep it general, but I want to ask you something more focused. I don't know how many times when I go back and watch this, I'm sure probably it's 20 plus times, you emphasize joy and safety. I want to just focus on the joy part. How would you use your magic wand in a way that brings greater joy to the young ladies and the young fairies and the young girls that you care so much about through your programming?
That's a great question. I think the first thing that I would do if I could just sprinkle some magic dust on a girl is to create a sense of calmness within them, to let them know that you don't have to be anxious, you don't have to be afraid, you don't have to worry. Like you can just skip around and be free, almost as if you have wings to just fly and enjoy the breath of life and know that you are protected and that you are seen and heard. I think also, what I would do with a magic wand and joy is to ensure that the spaces that they are in, whether it's at home and it's at school, has a sense of playfulness for them, right? Whether it's creating a calm corner in their room or, whatever that may look like in their own right. Like, I'm really like, because I understand, like, I need joy in my life as a 36-year-old woman, and I need playfulness in my life as a 36-year-old woman. And then I think the final thing is the access, right? I would love for them to have amenities in their communities where they can go outside to a park that has all of the things that maybe a park in Barrington or Lincoln Park has, right? I want them to be able to walk into a grocery store and see all of the colorful fruits that are fresh and not rotten and all of the things, right? I want them to be able to have access to like healthcare. So create like this community of access and things that they need to be successful. So that's what I would do if I had a magic wand.
That's what's up. And I know all of that is reflective of you listening to your girls and you
Mhm.
knowing intimately where they live and the communities they're in and some of, unfortunately, the resources that should be there that aren't, right?
Mhm.
That they should be having access to, but unfortunately they don't. Derek, we're at a point in our segment where it's like, yeah, let's go ahead and land this plane.
I
As
love landing the plane. I
yeah,
love that
like
part.
I tell you, like I had fun, an amazing time. The intent of Village Talks is always twofold. We want to make sure that people are getting inspiration and education when they come. That's why I asked, about the subtle nuances of how you do your programming, because as you were sharing that, I'm sure that there were some pieces that others who will watch this will hear of and learn of, and maybe, it might be a piece that can kind of teach them of an avenue or perspective that they can take. But then the inspiration, man. I'm inspired, right?
Thank you.
Even in you being able to share your story, I'm sure that that did something intrinsic and it will for our audience as well. I want to give you the floor for the final word, right? As a part of that final word, how can we reach you, get connected? It sounds like we can go on LinkedIn. I know you and I, all of our correspondence, I think, has been on LinkedIn before now.
Mhm.
So I already know how amazingly inept you are with just kind of using that space to connect with people. So yeah, if folks want to get in contact with you. But then secondly, anything in closing that you will want to share with our viewing and listening audience today, you have the floor.
Okay. So, if you would like to just learn more about our work, we are on all social media platforms at Focus Fairies Mentoring. You can also visit our website at focusfairiesmentoring.com. As an organization, we celebrate 10 years next year, and so we're always looking for volunteers to be mentors, thought partnerships, members of the board, and volunteers, right? To just continuously do this hard work throughout Chicago. And then one thing I will leave is take a breath, right? Just breathe. I know things seem uncertain, things seem chaotic, things seem crazy, but just breathe and know that we are in this together, even though it may feel isolating, and find little pockets of joy, however that may look for you.
That's what's up, y'all. I was reared in a community called Auburn Gresham on the South Side. I got my South Side sister who just came into this space with vulnerability, openness, and her truth, y'all. And this has been amazing. So, with that, this has been another session and segment of Village Talks. I know that y'all got inspiration. I know that y'all got education. And as Darryca offered up an opportunity, y'all reach out. She's doing some great stuff, and I know that there is massive support that other folks can be showing up with to help to extend the support and services that she's offering to young girls across the city of Chicago. All right, so with that, peace out. See y'all next time.
Thank you.
Yeah.